The vault you're about to rob has never been broken into, not once, in its entire history. It has 10 separate layers of security, including sensors that can detect body heat through solid walls, and you're going to get through most of them using a piece of styrofoam and a can of hairspray. It's the year 2000, and you're an Italian jewel thief named Leonardo Notarbartolo, and you've just had an idea that's either brilliant or completely insane, possibly both. The Antwerp Diamond District in Belgium handles something like 85% of the entire world's rough diamonds. Somewhere in the middle of it sits the Antwerp Diamond Center, and 2 floors beneath that building is a vault that everyone in the industry agrees is basically impossible to crack. Naturally, this is the one you've decided to go after. Your first move isn't a disguise or a break-in, it's paperwork. You rent an office inside the Diamond Center itself, posing as a legitimate diamond dealer, which means you now have a badge, a key, and a completely normal reason to be in the building every single day for as long as you want. You start showing up constantly, buying a few stones here and there, chatting with the guards, becoming exactly the kind of boring, familiar face that nobody looks at twice. This is the actual hard part of the whole plan. Not lockpicking, just being profoundly unremarkable for years at a time. Over the next several months, you slowly assemble a crew, because there's no way you're doing this alone. There's Speedy, your getaway driver. There's a locksmith so good, everyone just calls him the King of Keys. There's a technical specialist nicknamed the Monster, who's built like it. And there's the Genius, an electronics expert who is, annoyingly, actually a genius. Together, you spend roughly 2.5 years planning a robbery that will eventually take less than 1 night to pull off. You start studying the vault the way most people study for an exam. They're terrified of failing. You use a hidden pen camera to photograph every hallway, every door, every guard's daily routine. You find out that a small terrace attached to a private garden connects to the building and, crucially, isn't covered by security cameras, because nobody thought anyone would be crazy enough to climb a ladder into a diamond vault through someone's backyard. You make a note of that. The vault itself is protected by 10 separate layers of security, and each one on its own sounds like it should be the end of the plan. There's a combination lock with something like 100 million possible combinations. There's a magnetic field across the vault door that triggers an alarm if it's ever broken. There's a seismic sensor that can detect vibrations. There's Doppler radar, and there's an infrared heat sensor sensitive enough to notice a warm human body walking through a pitch-black room. Your job isn't to disable all of this at once. Your job is to find the one specific, boring weakness hiding inside each system and exploit exactly that. The heat sensor turns out to have a genuinely absurd weakness. The genius discovers that a thin sheet of polyester film, similar to old overhead projector transparencies, sprayed lightly with regular hairspray, is enough to block a body's thermal signature from the sensor entirely. Not military-grade thermal camouflage. Hairspray. 2 days before the actual heist, you personally walk into the vault under the completely normal pretense of visiting your own safe deposit box, and in one quick, practiced motion, you spray the heat and motion sensors with a small can of hairspray you've been carrying. The guards, who have seen you 100 times by now, don't even glance over. The spray creates an invisible film that will dull the sensors for roughly 48 hours. You've just started your countdown clock. You pick the date carefully, too. The weekend of February 15th, coinciding with a big diamond industry event out of town, meaning fewer people around and a skeleton security presence. Everything about this plan runs on patience and timing rather than force. On the night of the heist, you and your crew make your way in through that unmonitored garden terrace, using a ladder to reach a small balcony. There's an infrared camera watching this exact spot, so the genius has built a simple polystyrene shield, essentially a fancy piece of foam, and holds it up to block his own thermal signature as he approaches and disables the sensor. It works. You're in. Inside, the security cameras get covered with black plastic bags, which sounds almost too simple to actually succeed, and yet does. You make your way down to the vault door itself, where the magnetic lock is waiting. Weeks earlier, your team had quietly loosened the screws, holding the magnetic contact plates in place, and secured them with tape, so that on this specific night, all All you need to do is slide in a custom aluminum plate and magnets to keep the field intact while the actual door swings open, tricking the system into thinking the door was never touched at all. You turn off the lights before opening the vault door itself to avoid triggering a separate light sensor waiting inside. In total darkness, using a long two-part key combined with the correct combination, the vault door finally opens. There's still a metal security grate blocking the way in, so the King of Keys picks that lock too and slides it open. Now comes the part where the Hairspray's 48-hour window is really being tested. The monster steps into the vault first, alone, moving with deliberate slowness through total darkness. He carefully lifts a ceiling panel and, using a pair of tweezers, reroutes the wiring controlling the remaining sensors, clearing the way for the rest of the team to finally enter. Once everyone's inside, the real work begins. There are 189 individual safety deposit boxes lining the vault, each one secured with both a unique key lock and a separate combination. Using a custom hand-cranked device the King of Keys built specifically for this job, your crew methodically works through box after box after box. By the time you're done, you've cracked open 109 of them, filling duffel bags with loose diamonds, gold, cash, and jewelry. You never once trigger a single alarm. 10 layers of security, and you beat every single one of them using hairspray, foam, tape, and roughly 2.5 years of extremely boring patience. You get out the same way you came in, and by the time the sun comes up, you're already driving away from what will later be called the largest diamond heist in history. Here's where it should have ended. Instead, this is where it falls apart. As you're leaving the area, dumping the incriminating trash from the operation along a quiet road near the E19 motorway between Antwerp and Brussels, one of your guys panics. Not from police pressure, from nerves. He just starts throwing bags of evidence out of the car, hoping to get rid of it as fast as possible. Candy wrappers, camera film, gloves, envelopes with the Diamond Center's letterhead still on them, and a half-eaten salami sandwich. The next morning, a local resident who apparently makes a hobby out of picking up roadside litter finds this entire pile of trash and, mildly annoyed at yet another illegal dumping, calls the police to report it. The police, mildly annoyed themselves, show up expecting nothing more than an illegal dumping complaint, and instead find security envelopes from the largest unsolved heist currently making international news. DNA recovered from that salami sandwich eventually gets traced back to you. Rough way for a criminal master plan to end. 2.5 years of meticulous, disciplined planning, 10 layers of impossible security defeated with office supplies and hairspray, and the entire operation ultimately gets undone by a sandwich and someone else's litter-picking hobby. You're eventually arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Your accomplices get 5 years each. And the diamonds? Most of them are never recovered. To this day, estimates on the actual value stolen range from around $20 million all the way up to $100 million, with you personally claiming the lower number and insisting the whole thing was actually part of an elaborate insurance fraud scheme cooked up with a diamond dealer on the inside. Nobody's ever been able to prove that version, and the truth of exactly how much disappeared that night, like most of the diamonds themselves, has simply never been found. So somewhere out there, a fortune in loose diamonds that once sat in the most secure vault in the world is just, presumably, still out there, sitting in someone's safe or a drawer, or possibly a very confused pawn shop. Anyway, I'm collecting donations in the form of subscribes to fund the next video, preferably not in diamonds. Too much paperwork.